Hey guys, what's going on? This is Ash here coming at you today in Raid Shadow Legends. Today we're going to rank down, well, my favorite area of the game, 10 epic champions that you want to be using, you want to be investing in, 6-starring for the arena. I love the arena. Again, I'm actually looking forward to this arena tournament thing that should be coming in the next patch. I know a lot of people are just like, yeah, whatever, man, but anything involving the arena, unless it's god tier artifacts for the top 1%, I am in favor of. So I can't wait to see what they do with that. Hopefully it's good, but either way, again, I just love the arena. So today, again, focusing on 10 champions epic. There are probably 25, 30 champions kind of coming up with this list that are great in the arena. So there's going to be a lot of champions left off that are really good. So feel free to let me know in the comments below which champion you use that wasn't on this list. Namely, I'm not going to include Miscreated Monster or Mausoleum Mage. They're both fantastic champion, two of my favorite champions. Miscreated is my favorite epic champion, but I'm focusing more on speed, nukers, farming champions, debuffers, buff strippers, you know, like strip away the buffs like Madame Saris. We're going to start with Madame Saris right now, so let's go ahead and just get to her. But that's what I'm focusing on this list, because to me, those are really the most valuable champions inside the arena in any rarity. You want to be moving fast and efficiently, so debuffers like Madame Saris is going to be great. So what's up with Madame Saris? She is This is not going to be a ranking video because it depends on what you need out of your champion. I say that on all my videos, but it's true. It'd be foolish for me to say, oh, you know, Czar Gala's the number one in whatever, Skullcrown's the number 2. It's not like that. However, I do think the most endgame viable, the epic champion that we see the most in Platinum Arena is Madame Saris. So she's the champion that I personally use the most as well. So her kit is just incredible. You guys have seen it before. If you haven't, man, she's the champion that you want to be pulling. If you pull up if you open up those void shards, right? She has a chance of landing the fear on the A1. Amazing to land a fear on A1. Trick or Treats is her default ability. Usually you don't want to start with her A2. You want to start with her A3. So note that on Madame Saris. But anyway, attacks all enemies. Has a 50% chance of stealing one random buff from each target, places a block debuffs buff on all allies for 2 turns if any buff is stolen, and then places a true fear debuff for 1 turn on enemies who have a buff stolen. So this is an ability that you don't want to be leading off with. You want to be leading off with her A3 and then going to the A2 after the team actually have some buffs so you can steal them on her A2 Trick or Treat. Midnight Ritual is one of the strongest abilities in the game. I would probably put it as maybe a top 10 ability in the game. Certainly one of the best epic abilities in the game, might be the best. Removes all buffs from all enemies. So a buff stripper, really valuable in the arena, incredibly valuable. Places a decreased attack debuff and a decreased defense debuff, both the big versions, on all enemies for 3 turns. Wow. What an insane opening move in the arena, right? Or you could wait. It's weird too, right? You could use this as your opening move, and you should use this because of the decreased defense, right? But also, it works later because you can strip, the second time it comes around, if you go more than 4 turns, you can strip away all their buffs with it too. It's incredible utility. And the good thing about this ability is it doesn't do damage. That sounds kind of weird, but if you have a CC champion like I run a champion with the sleep ability. So I open with a sleep, put all the enemies to sleep. I don't want to do damage to them, and it's nice to have the midnight ritual that will debuff them all, remove all their buffs, and still keep them asleep. And then for her passive, it's a great passive too. Places a shield buff on this champion equal to 10% of their HP at the start of each turn. When attacked while under shield, has a 35% chance of placing a fear debuff on the attacker for 1 turn. Man, I mean, just an amazing kit for the arena. That's a lot of time here on Madame Saris. Let's move on and, you know, give this video a little bit more speed. Next up is Gorg Arab. Gorg Arab is a great option for you guys. He's a little bit more defensive oriented. However, he has 2 abilities that are going to be just amazing for the arena. On his aura, first of all, increase ally speed in the arena by 23%. That is a great aura for the arena. A lot of people, especially in, you know, gold tiers of the arena, run him as their lead before they can get that bigger speed aura. He's a great lead for your team because not only is going to be speeding up your entire team, helping you go first, but he's also going to be on his A2, filling the turn meter of all allies by 15% on a 3-turn cooldown, and placing an increased attack buff on all allies for 2 turns. A great kind of opening move for your team. Again, increasing that turn meter, making sure you go first, along with the speed aura, and placing that increased attack on all your nukers. On his A3, he has a revival of all dead allies, and then heals them by 25%. A nice kind of AoE revival, so all of your team is going to be picked up. So you want to build him with a lot of defense, make sure he's the last man standing, and he can put you right back in the fight. On his A1, he has a chance of removing 1 buff from the enemy. Next up is Czar Gala. I mentioned her before. She is one of the best known nukers in the epic category for the arena, and she has great synergy between her A3 and her A2. We've talked about this on the channel before, so I'll be pretty brief here. She does have an accuracy in all battles. Probably not going to be using her as your lead though in the arena. You really want to go with that speed, especially if you're speed farming, right? You want to go first. So her crack, starting with her A3, her crack armor ability attacks all enemies 3 times. After the first hit, has a 75% chance when booked of placing a decreased defense buff on all enemies for 2 turns. This is on a 4-turn cooldown. We'd like this AoE to be on a 3-turn cooldown, but when we look at her A2, then you realize, okay, I get it. Devastate is her A2 on a 2-turn cooldown here. Attacks 1 enemy, instantly activates the crack armor skill if the target is killed by this attack. So you kill a target and then boom, right away, crack armor fires again. Man, what a nuker, what an ability this is. Czar Gala is just really, I don't know if she's unique. There are other instant activations. There's even one on this list, but this is such a great synergy in her kit. A lot of people use Czar Gala as their main nuker in the arena for this reason. She's a great champion. On her A1, attacks 1 enemy, has a 50% chance of placing a weaken debuff as well. But you won't be using her A1 that often, again, because when booked, hey, 2-turn cooldown on Devastate. Anyway, guys, that is Czar Gala. Next up, I've talked a lot about Umbral Enchantress because she has some decent nuking abilities. She wouldn't be maybe your main nuker, but maybe a secondary nuker, but really she's a crowd control champion inside the arena. She puts out decent damage because her damage does scale on defense. You can build her to be your ultimate tank for your team, and she's going to be landing a provoke on the enemy team, one of the best CC abilities inside the arena, okay? So on her A1, attacks 1 enemy, damage increases as current HP decreases. Her HP is almost always going to be sitting at 1 hit point because of her A3. So she's going to be putting more damage out on her Essence Scepter. Her Essence Scepter she's going to be using a lot, and we'll talk about why in just a moment. Her A2 AoE attack, again damage based on defense, has a 100% chance when booked of placing a block buff debuff for 3 turns on all your enemies. Not a bad ability at all, but really it's all about her Undying Evil. This is usually your opener with your Umbral Enchantress. Because of this, you're really not using the A2, which is actually pretty solid. So you're opening up with an AoE attack, again based on defense, has a 100% chance of placing a provoke debuff for 2 turns on all enemies. So you're shutting down all the enemies. They can only do her A1, and they can only target Umbral Enchantress. Okay, but it does place a block cooldown skills on her for 5 turns, and you cannot remove that. So essentially, you open up with this, and then you have 2 turns to do as much damage, as much work as you can with the rest of your team as possible, because you're going to totally neuter the other team in terms of what they can do. They can't do anything to you. That's why you default to her A1, so it's nice that it does a lot of damage when her HP is low, because you're going to have a 2-turn provoke on her. Everybody's going to be attacking her, but she has an unkillable buff too, so she's not going to die. She's just going to be sitting there at 1 HP and doing a lot of damage on her A1, but really it's up to the rest of your champions, the team around her, to carry the heavy lifting in terms of damage output after that, but she is definitely a game changer. So next up is Dark Elaine. Dark Elaine can be used as a specialist in the arena against freeze champions. So any freeze champion you run against, especially Tormund, you can go ahead and sub in Dark Elaine. She's insane. You can use her as your nuker as well. She actually has a great multiplier on her A2. She can put out some decent damage as kind of a main or secondary nuker on your team. So her A1 attacks 1 enemy, decreases max HP by 30%. Whatever, does hit pretty hard though. On her A2, places an increased attack buff on her, then attacks all enemies 50% chance, 75% chance when booked of placing a decreased speed debuff for 2 turns as well. This is a great ability on a 3-turn cooldown, but it gets even better again with the passives. Lethal Winter fills his champion's turn meter by 25% and instantly activates the A2, that hard-hitting A2 again whenever this champion or an ally receives a freeze debuff. And again here, I've said this before in the channel, but when they say instantly activates, it means instantly. It's not going to take up a turn. It's not going to cost you a cooldown of this Death's Majesty. It's just going to be boom. So in certain situations, if the opponents are just like, if you're going against a tournament and, you know, one turn you get one champion frozen, the next turn you get another champion frozen, or every time their turn meter fills, I should say, they keep getting frozen, she's going to keep going boom, boom, boom with the Death's Majesty ability, like over and over again. It's amazing, right? And then her other passes instantly removes any freeze debuffs from this champion and replaces them with one of, or all, excuse me, of these buffs. Increased crit rate, increased crit damage, strengthen. And whenever that happens, whenever she gets a freeze on her every turn, she's going to remove the freeze and give herself all of these buffs instead. Again, Dark Elaine is just a great champion, and she's free. She's a daily login reward for those of you who play, I think, when is it? Let me go ahead and check real quick. She is a login reward for... After 120 days, you're going to get yourself a Dark Elaine if you haven't already gotten her. Next up is Seeker. Seeker is an arena specialist, guys. I used Seeker for a long time before I had Lysandra. You want to build him up with as much speed as humanly possible. That's really the only stat that matters on your Seeker in the arena. Of course, it's nice to have defense and as well, but at the end of the day, you want him going first because of his A2. On his A1, well, let's just talk about his kit, because you're going to be using his A2 first, right? On a 3-turn cooldown, fills the turn meter of all allies by 30%, places an increased attack buff on all allies for 2 turns, and then grants an extra turn. So Seeker is a great champion to build as, again, super speedy. You put him with another champion with a speed aura on your team, and this is a great opening move. All of your allies get a 30% increase on their speed, and then he gets to go again, plus the increased attack, then he gets to go again. When he goes again, you can start every match by, again, all that stuff that we just talked about, and then landing a provoke, hopefully debuff on one of the enemies, taking them out of the fight. You can provoke maybe, you know, their debuffer, their nuker, their speed, their increased speed champion, whoever it is, you have a chance at landing this provoke as well, a 50% chance. So it's not a bad, when you put all that all together, it's really not a bad kit. It's very simple, but Seeker is, again, an arena specialist. I used him for a super long time. I really like him. He has a heal the champion by 20% and places an increased defense buff on all allies for 2 turns when hit with a critical hit as a passive. Just a really solid champion. Also has a defense in the arena by 30% if you want to build a defensive team around him, but because of his kit, most people build him for speed. Next up is Skullcrown, guys. Skullcrown, what can I say? She is just annoying to face and pretty fun when you have her on your team. A lot of people use Skullcrown as their main arena nuker, and for very good reason. She has a great unkillable ability, and she has 2 AoEs. On her A1, she has attacks all enemies, places an extra hit if the target has more than 50% HP, and on her A2, attacks all enemies, has a 75% chance when booked on a 3-turn cooldown of placing a weaken for 2 turns. Again, very simple, but very effective. And then, especially with your Skullcrown, with all these nukers, really important to have a defense down going right before them. It will allow your nukers, such as Skullcrown, to one-shot the opponent's team, right? Using Skullcrown without a defense down and with a defense down will show you the utility of her, of this champion. Same thing with every nuker. She's going to be able to one-shot everybody, usually, at least do a lot of damage usually, if you have that decreased defense. You know, use that Saris, use that Tyrell, whatever, and then she'll be able to just work magic for your team. And again, her passive is, to the annoyance of many players, places an unkillable buff on this champion for 1 turn every time their HP drops below 20%. That happens every 4 turns with that cooldown booked up. And then her other passes is only if she has Senesha on the same team, revives this champion with 30%. She has a speed aura in the arena by 23% as well. So a lot of people run her as their lead and their main nuker in the arena. She's great. next up is Tyrell. Surprise, surprise. He makes all my top 10 lists, and for very good reason. He's a beast, even in the arena if you need a good debuffer. So on his A1, you guys know he has a decreased attack. His damage is all based on defense. On his A2, it's an AoE decreased defense. That's what you want to open with, and then before the Skullcrown goes, you want to open with the decreased defense, and then boom, enemies all deado. You know, that's usually the case, at least. Also has a chance at placing the sleep if the target is under a decreased attack debuff. On the A3, though, it's his second best arena ability, the preemptive strike ability, again, based off defense. It's pretty hard hitting. You can build your Tyrell to actually have 100% crit rate as well, and a lot of defense. Has attacks one enemies, decreases the target's turn meter by 50%. So really for the arena, you need to build your Tyrell with defense, with speed, because you want him going first to debuff the enemy team, and you also need to build him with some accuracy so he can land the decreased target's turn meter by 50%. If the attack fully depletes the turn meter, it will place a stun debuff for 2 turns. What a great ability. You can, again, remove an enemy out of the equation, especially if you target an enemy, target another champion who has their turn meter already low. So you can go with the, say an enemy already went, but he's a really annoying champion to face. You can go ahead and target him. You'll fully deplete their turn meter, and then you'll take them out of the battle for a while by landing that stun as well. So a really nice kind of addition to his AoE decreased defense on his A3 there on a 4-turn cooldown, and he has an ally defense in all battles by 25%, usually not using him in the arena as your aura champion, but if you don't have better, hey, you can slot him in there in the lead as well. It feels like there's a ton of Dark Elf kind of female champions who are great in the arena. There's Luria, there's Sylar. I decided to go with Lua here because I think that you can kind of gear her out to be an absolute kind of CC nuker, or at least a great nuker for your team. She has a 3-hitter AoE attack. Really quickly though, on her A1, she has a attack one enemy and then deals 50% of inflicted damage to all enemies. If it's critical, it's always going to be critical because you're going to be building her with 100% crit rate. Her attack is scaled really well, 1564 base attack. That's really high for an epic champion. However, just keep in mind her defense is very low and her HP, so she's kind of a glass cannon, right? Hail of Arrows attacks all enemies 3 times on a 3-turn cooldown when booked. Each critical hit heals this champion by 2.5% HP. Again, some people run her in kind of daze or stun gear. That way because a 3-hitter on an AoE, you have 3 chances of 18% or whatever it is, 18% of landing that kind of CC crowd control ability. So you have some flexibility in how you want to gear your Lua. And then on her A3, attacks one enemy, fully depletes the target's turn meter, and then ignores shield and block damage buffs. This is great situationally as well in the arena, and it hits pretty hard on the lucky shot. Plus the full turn meter depletion, again, kind of removes an enemy from the fight for a while. So a great ability to kind of round out her kit. So to end this list, guys, I wanted to kind of give a nod to a champion that I don't talk about a ton here on the channel, but is Seer. I feel like Seer is, well, I would say underrated, but I think the word is out on Seer. She's a great champion. Because of her A3, it hits so incredibly hard if you build the appropriate team around her, right? So it removes all buffs from all allies and all enemies, then attacks all enemies. Damage increases according to the number of removed buffs. So it also has a chance of placing a sleep for 1 turn, but honestly, guys, it inflicts less damage on bosses, so noteworthy there on a 4-turn cooldown, but the Karma Burn ability hits like a truck. If you're removing, I mean, damage increases according to the number of overall buffs removed. Think about it, there's 8 champions in this battle. So if you can buff up, have somebody going before her, maybe put the opponents to sleep early on, make sure you take them out of the fight, have somebody have any debuffer go. Like this is where, again, Madame Saris is great because what you can do is land 2 debuffs without even waking up the enemies, without having to do any damage. So you're landing a lot of debuffs. Granted, again, these are 2 Void Affinity champions, so I'm not assuming everybody has them, but it doesn't matter. Just build your team with a strong debuffer and a strong buffer, and then let the Karma Burn do its work. This thing can crit for 200 plus K, right? A lot of damage. You can see fast, even, talking about dungeons, forget the arena for a second. You know, she can clear waves in dungeons in a matter of seconds. Like Dragon's 20, Ice Golem's 20, it doesn't matter. She's hitting so hard, she can often one-shot if enough debuffs or buffs, are removed. She can one-shot all those waves. It's insane ability, the Karma Burn. So I wanted to give her a nod here on this top 10 list. Also, Clan Banner places a weaken and an increased crit rate on the enemies and your allies, respectively. And on the A1, attacks one enemy, has a 20% chance when booked out of getting an extra turn as well, which is great ability. It's going to, you know, decrease the cooldown of all your other abilities just by proccing that extra turn. So that is Seer, and that concludes this list of epic champions. My top 10 epic champions, with again a bias towards nukers and debuffers, as you can see from this list. Again, guys, let me know in the comments what champion did I leave off this list that you absolutely love. There's a lot of great epic champions for the arena, so again, a lot of them were left off this list, but I hope you enjoyed the video. Nonetheless, guys, thank you so much for watching all the way till the end. I appreciate you guys, especially you guys who are still watching right now who can hear my voice. Thank you, and as always, take care, guys.